Hello, I'm Sarah the Gallifreyan Ravenclaw. So, the 60th is now fast approaching, and I've been meaning to make this video for a while, but there's been more and more stuff coming out, but we've now had all the trailers and probably all confirmations we're going to get until the 60th now. So I thought this would be a good time to talk about what I want for the 60th and my theories about it. So, a good place to start is obviously the 10th Doctor and Donna. Now, 10th Doctor is probably my second favourite. He was sort of the one I grew up with. I did watch Eccleston first, but I was like 5, so probably would say Denton Tennant was sort of my first Doctor, and then Matt Smith is my favourite. But the companions, out of his companions, Martha's my favourite. So I would never say Donna's my favourite, but I did enjoy their dynamic and that she wasn't sopping all over him, unlike all the previous ones. Their dynamic doesn't appear to have changed one bit, so that's going to be fun of seeing the same kind of dynamic again. But if the whole "if she remembers me she will die" thing is fixed in the first 20 seconds, that's going to be a total cop-out. So they need to have a decent reason why she can now remember and the Doctor couldn't have done that before. I have seen suggestions that she travels with him again for a couple of weeks and then it kills her, which would be a good suggestion because obviously the time went, I know she can survive a few weeks like this, but if I don't do it now then I'll never do it, and that's why he wiped her memory at that point. So having those last few weeks, although I think killing her off now she's got a daughter is a bit harsh, so I kind of hope they don't kill her off, although I understand why some people do want her to die. Also, I want her to actually meet an alien from Mars because she still thinks that all the aliens are from Mars, because she called the Doctor a Martian for the entirety of Runaway Bride, and now Beep the Meep is apparently a Martian, so I'd love if there is actually a Martian one like the Ice Warriors in the 60th and Donna finally meets someone actually from Mars. The rest of the Temple Noble family, well, like everyone, I'm obviously looking forward to Wilf as his final appearance, and as it was the last thing Bernard Cribbins ever filmed. And I hope the rumours of reshots aren't wrong, and that they did manage to film every scene that Wilf was supposed to be in, but his lack of appearances in the trailers has got a lot of people worried. And I know there were some reshoots, but we hope they weren't scenes that they had to reshoot because they had to take a bit of time off to rewrite them and cut Wilf out of them. So Sylvia is just the same as ever, and I love that people have pointed out in the trailer she slaps him. Sylvia slaps the Doctor, and that is actually, she was the only RTD era mum who hadn't, as both Jackie and Francine had already slapped him before. So now they all have. But the thing about Sylvia, I hope, is that we see evidence that in the last 10 or so years, she has done what the Doctor asked her to. Because if we remember the last scene of End of Time, he says about, that she was the most important person in the universe. And Sylvia goes, she always was to me. And he goes, we'll show her that, because the entire series, he's just building her confidence because she always goes, oh, I'm nothing. So I hope that she has actually shown that, and Donna now actually believes that she is important. I'd also like to see and get to know Sean a lot more, because we didn't really meet him. Like, he was in The End of Time, but he was very brief appearances. So we'd like to actually get to know him. And Rose will be interesting to see how Donna is as a mum. Technically, again, as she did have those children in the library, so we have kind of already seen her as a mum. But obviously she couldn't have built on those experiences because she doesn't remember them. And it would be interesting to see how she is as an actual mum. So on to some theories. I've been saying for ages that the whole toy maker manipulating everything could answer a lot of the questions. If he made the Doctor look like that, whether it's an illusion and he does really look like Shooty, or he manipulated the regeneration, as I believe it was the toy maker who caused the first one. I haven't seen that serial and I think half of it is missing, but the toy maker has been involved in regeneration beforehand. So it would also be an explanation of how Donna could remember everything and not die, because if it is all an illusion, then it might be like a dream to her. So she can, in her dream, remember and not die, and then when she wakes up, she doesn't remember the dream and it doesn't kill her. So that might be a possible explanation on how this all works. I think the Doctor will end up regenerating, saving either Donna or one of her family. And I think Ncuti might actually be more than we think. Usually with regeneration episodes, the end would be no more than 5 minutes of the new Doctor. Usually it's about 1 minute. But I think he'll actually be in at least 10. Especially if it's all an illusion. So at like the final showdown, he glitches and we see him flicking between both. A bit like in Flux when 13 was doing all the stuff that we then saw when she looked in reflections that it was actually the Ruth fugitive Doctor. So maybe have something like that of sort of, we're seeing it as Tennant and then he sees some sort of reflection and he actually is Ncuti. Something like that throughout the end, but or obviously he just regenerates slightly earlier. I think he is in more than we think he is. I know he was busy filming for lots of the 60th, but obviously I said they did do reshoots, so the reshoots might have been to cut him in. I've also actually seen theories that 14 and 15 team up. I doubt that, but that would be interesting to actually have 15 after series 14 turns up, so a more experienced, not newly regenerated him teams up for a bit in one of the episodes and then shortly after regenerates into him. I doubt that. I think the illusion theory is the most likely, but we'll see. So onto Unit. So we know Kate is in it, obviously, as she's now the figurehead for Unit for us, and Ruth Madley's character, Shirley Ann Bingham, but we haven't seen most of the old faces. Where's Osgood? And what about the other companions from the support group? Like, Kate literally said, oh, I'm going to recruit some of you. So I doubt Yaz would have been recruited yet, but where would be characters like her? And so if one of them makes an appearance, so what about a former companion who works for Unit and is the only other one who's travelled with that face and isn't stuck in a parallel universe? Yeah, so I doubt Martha will be in it, but I would love to see it. I said she is my favourite of that era. So I'd also love to see some other past ones, especially classic, reappear. The perfect one would have been the Brigadier, but obviously we know that's not possible. And Sarah Jane would have been a great one as well. So it's a shame we can't have those, but there are still some possibilities. For instance, Captain Yates. I did have to do some Googling, but he is still around and was in something else just last year. So he could make a guest appearance. Also, I don't know if this is just me, but in the trailer, is Unit being invaded? Because there's that door behind Kate, which I think is where the blue thing was coming through. That thing reminded me of the Gulf, so I think it's some sort of rift. So is it they built their new Unit tower over a rift, a bit like Torchwood did? Because that would be an interesting thing to actually have Unit being over a rift and almost having to do what Torchwood was doing back in the day. Over a different rift. So, the Toymaker. As I said, I haven't seen the original serial, so I don't know too much about him. But obviously it being a first Doctor villain is a great hark back for a specials one. Especially as it was the last one he faced. Chronologically rather than including like multi-Doctor stories. And so it's a great nod to the history. And I haven't actually seen Neil Patrick Harris in anything else. I'm sure some people will be surprised to learn that. But honestly, didn't recognise him. Don't think I've seen anything else he's in. So I can't really say I'm looking forward to him in particular, but I'm obviously looking forward to the character, seeing what it brings. I do enjoy, oh, is it real kind of stories, as long as they don't get too confusing. As long as it's easier to follow than Inception, well, you should be alright. And as Russell's trying to make this a good jumping on point, I don't think he will make it anything too confusing. I think some of the Moffat storylines got quite confusing, and that's what put some people off that era. So I think he knows not to make them too complicated. So if there's a bit of, is it real? Let's just say I don't think it will get to Last Christmas level. So we believe the layout of the stories is Beep the Meep and the Wrath Warriors in the first one. Then Donna and the Doctor go in the TARDIS to that spaceship place where the TARDIS leaves them. And then the final one is back in Earth with Unit fighting the Toymaker. But does that make the scenes of the Doctor and Donna running down the doll's house in episode 2 or 3? How long does that make episode 3? Because if Shooty is the last 5-10 minutes, and there's the final showdown, and there's all the unit stuff, that's an awful lot of stuff in episode 3. So if we assume the other two are 45 minutes to an hour, then I wonder if the third one's longer, more like an hour, hour 15, which obviously the 50 was. I don't think it'll be longer than that, because if it was as long as The Power of the Doctor, then with 2 previous episodes, that would be an awful lot of stuff. So obviously the 3 together will be longer than Power of the Doctor, but I don't think any individual episode will be. But I do suspect the third one might be longer than the other 2. So either episode 3 is longer, or actually maybe the Toymaker is in episode 2. Because episode 2 is the one we've seen the least footage from. So how do we know that the alien that they discover on that spaceship isn't the Toymaker? Also, obviously, so from the trailer, we know there were a few nods to the 50th that were totally inevitable. The TARDIS being lifted by helicopter was the good one. Although this time, Kate did remind them to knock, because the Doctor was actually in the helicopter, not hanging from the bottom of it this time. Though people have joked, have they edited Matt Smith out and he is actually hanging underneath the TARDIS again, which would be interesting. Also, if Kate has taken in previous companions for the briefing like we saw in the 50th, then she does know who Donna is and has been keeping an eye on her. But as she met 10 in the 50th, does she just assume this is 10 while he was travelling with Donna? Or does she realise this is 14? Or is she just careful and doesn't mention any previous encounter, just goes, he knows who I am, that'll do. Although if she's aware of the order of the Doctor's faces, she should be confused why he knows who she is, but didn't in The Power of 3. But she may not be aware of the order. I like that you can look at this as if it was always planned. Like, Donna clearly still remembered something when she bought Wilf that book in the end of time. So surely all the other invasions that happened throughout the next 3 Doctors' eras would have triggered something. All dead bodies turning into Cybermen? Daleks at Downing Street? Did she sleep through all of those again? I know Donna never met the Cybermen, but, well, that we saw. But any sign of aliens would be a problem for her. Like, she never even met the Master, but everyone's faces turning into him was enough to cause her brain to explode. Despite the fact she never met the Master. So to her that was basically just everyone turning into the former Prime Minister. Like, that shouldn't have been enough to make her brain explode, yet apparently she's fine after Daleks and Cybermen. I know she never met the Cybermen, but she met the Daleks. So she would have recognised them when they appeared on the news at Downing Street. But there are some other things in the 60th and the whole Return of David Tennant that actually you can find hints for a very long way back. The very obvious one is River. In Silence of the Library, she says all about having that face looks younger than you are, and having met that face before, basically. The genuine reason for that is the Flesh and Stone 2-parter was actually supposed to be a David Tennant story, but because he then left at the end of that year, it got given to Matt Smith. So there are a lot of references in that episode of her going, oh, I've met this face before. So if she appears in the 60th, or even just she's met the 14th Doctor, I'm sure Big Finish can do that, then that would actually fix those things. And there's the line that lots of people pointed out. The curator, during the 50th, said about revisiting old faces, which was mostly to infer that he was actually a future incarnation of the Doctor, who retired and became the curator of the museum, and even that was his TARDIS, but it obviously fits a bit too well with Tennant coming back, as in general, if you say most popular Doctor of the classic era, the answer is Tom Baker. Most popular Doctor of the new era is David Tennant. So having relations between the two of them being the ones who are there twice does fit. So the 60th is actually, despite being a jumping on point, is actually tying up a lot of loose ends, not even just from RTD's first era, but from the Moffat era, and almost using what Chibnall did, because now they don't have to worry about regeneration numbers again. So you can have posters of all the Doctors with David Tennant on it 2-3 times. He was already on there for the Meta Crisis half the time. The Doctor realising who the Toymaker is going to be a big moment, certainly, for them, because from the Doctor's perspective, it's been at least 3,000 years. The maths never totally adds up, certainly if you count 9 and 10 as telling the truth, because they said they were about 900, yet 2 and 3 claimed they were thousands of years old. So let's just go by 9 and 10 were telling the truth. It's been at least 2,000 years. If the earlier Doctors were telling the truth, it's been a lot longer. So the Doctor seeing the Toymaker again is going to be a big thing, certainly for that many years. Doubt it's been that long for the Toymaker, but it's probably been a good few hundred years that he's been plotting how to kill the Doctor, and obviously he's regenerated in that time. So there was another line in the trailer. How do we fight the human race? Which begs a lot of questions. So is the Toymaker controlling them, or are they just meaning hysteria? Because it kind of reminded me of in Sarah Jane's The Nightmare Man, making everyone see their worst fears. Could it be something along those lines? Like the cracks running through the ground. Are they real or an illusion? Is that just what one person sees and someone else sees themselves being attacked by a giant spider or something? Is it that kind of thing and everyone's just panicking? Or is the Toymaker actually controlling them? And I'm assuming this is end of episode 1 into episode 2. There's something up with the TARDIS when it takes them off to wherever episode 2 is set. Because it appears to have a force field around it, and the rest of the Temple Noble family's shouting at it. And Rose obviously shouts Mum, so we're assuming Donna is inside the TARDIS at that point with the Doctor. And that's how episode 2 happens. So why was there a force field thing around it? Why is it flying off on its own accord? And are we ever going to see the interior? Because I know that Jodie's set was demolished prior to the filming of the 60th. Like, I was on it the day it got demolished. If you don't know what I mean, find that video. So I know that there is no way they could have filmed the 60th in it at that time. Because they hadn't started filming yet. It was still the old crew. It was still the production team from Chibnall's era wrapping up that day. But as the TARDIS, like in the 50th, glitched between the different consoles trying to get it for the right Doctor, could it be possible the TARDIS just looks at the Doctor and goes, oh, I'll bring back your old console then. So it would be 10's console again, which, yes, it does still exist. The original got destroyed when the storage got flooded, but the one made for the 60th and that was used in The Doctor's Wife, the central column does still exist. So it is quite possible that they did rebuild that, because they still had the central column. So they could quite easily just remake the edges again and use that for the filming. Or could it be a new design for Series 14 and it be Ncuti's TARDIS? I feel that will kind of take away from him then in his first episode not having a new TARDIS. I know technically Capaldi didn't get a new one at the beginning because Matt had two. He sort of took Matt's second one and they basically just changed the lighting. And he didn't get a new one himself until his last series. But I think that they would give Shooty a new one. But maybe it is 14 is going to use that as well. I don't know. Or there could even be a 60th only TARDIS. I doubt it, but there have been things saying the Disney money enabled some reshoots. So maybe that could include all the scenes in the TARDIS. Maybe they had filmed them in a version of 10s or even 15s, and Disney went, no, here's some money, design a 14 TARDIS and refilm all the scenes in the TARDIS. So maybe he's got his own one, but I don't know. So will Donna survive? I'm not sure. I think those scenes of the Doctor breaking down are because history is repeating itself with the do I save Wilf? It's now do I save Donna? Because last time part of that speech was how much more he wanted to do. And now he gets a second chance. But it's only been weeks at most, and that's if you count the comic. I don't think it's even been that. So he finally got another chance at being that person again, and within weeks he'd have to give it up again. So I think that's what that is. And if Donna returned, Sean and Rose are now aware of the Doctor, so it would be harder for her to go back to her normal life with forgetting everything again, because Sean does not know anything weird. He knows of the things that everyone knows. He remembers planets in the sky and all that stuff. But he has no idea that Donna was involved in any of that. And he certainly has no idea that Donna doesn't know she was involved in any of that. His response would be more, why didn't you tell me? So, as they now learn about the Doctor, if they do wipe her memories again, that means her entire family are keeping it secret from her. Rather than it was sort of she moved on with her new life with her husband and her mum was keeping the secret. So I think in the end, he would, if she survives, he would have to let her keep her memories. But then I said, I want that to be something he couldn't have done 10 years ago. I don't know what. Maybe because it's been 10 years, her brain's had a chance to recover. Something like that. But there's got to be some way to save her that it wasn't possible for him to do last time. Last time, wiping her memories was the only option. And of course, but before regeneration, everyone wants the final line to be something along the lines of, I'm ready to go, rather than I don't want to go. So finally, the other Doctors. So, I would love Matt to appear, but I feel a bit like if it was Matt and David, it would just be 50.2 again. Capaldi has made it quite clear that he doesn't want to return, and he's not a fan of multi-Doctor episodes. Eccleston was growing on the idea of a return, but I doubt he will when RTD's in charge. So fingers crossed for the 70th if Russell's moved on by then. Jodie left 2 minutes ago, almost literally, by the start of the episode, and was pregnant at the time of filming the 60th. So that really only leaves classic ones. All the ones alive, bar Tom Baker, appeared in Power of the Doctor. And I doubt he would appear any more than he did in the 50th, and obviously he is 10 years older again. So I doubt any Doctors will be in it other than 14 and 15. There'll probably be a flashback. I think maybe something like 11's speech at the end of 11th Hour, where he sort of had all the faces and then walked out. Something like that would be good, but I don't know exactly how they'd do that. But there should definitely be something like that, with sort of, like they had the archive footage of all the previous Doctors for calling the Gallifrey War Room and doing that in the 50th. So something along those lines so they all feature, but I don't think any others will be in it. I will scream the house down if 11 turns up, but I doubt he will. He may be a cameo. He might have a tiny cameo, but I don't think he's going to have much. So there have been suggestions that if the regeneration was messed up by it being a sort of degeneration, that into the regeneration into Shooty, you'll see 11, 12 and 13. Sort of he'll regenerate into 11 for 1 second and then 12 for 1 second and then 13, which would be interesting. I think the best way if you wanted a classic one to appear would be to have a kind of Ood Sigma Watcher style thing with the first Doctor watching over the regeneration. And you obviously could use the Edge again, which I think Russell had seen Power of the Doctor before he wrote the 60th, but that isn't confirmed. He probably saw a not actually good, had the post-production version. But he would be aware of the Edge when writing it, so he could have put that in. So those are my thoughts on the 60th, both things I want to see, things I theorise will happen, and what bits I'm excited about. So if you have any other comments about the 60th, obviously prior to it, as it's only a few weeks away, and we are currently in the longest break without Doctor Who since New Who started, because the longest gap before was between Christmas specials with no series in between, or between New Year specials with no series in between. We are now at over a year since Power of the Doctor, which seems bonkers to say, but David Tennant has been the Doctor for an entire year and still hasn't had a single episode. But, you know, that's how it goes. So, if you have any other thoughts, do let me know down in the comments. And I hope this is the start of me doing more regular content. I am not sure if I'm going to do reviews of each episode of the 60th. I don't like to watch a programme planning to review it, because then I feel like I don't watch it. I'm just in my head planning my review. So I'm not going to say I am going to review each episode. I will decide once it's finished whether I'm going to record a review, if that makes any sense. So I will definitely, after all 3 episodes, do something about sort of my thoughts of the entire thing. But I don't know how much I'll do of each specific episode. But I'm hoping to do more regular content again now. I'm not as busy anymore. Hope you enjoyed this. See you soon. Bye.